Well, there's a story that Pope Francis tells of his days as a kid growing up in Argentina. After school, the kids would all go to the local field to fly kites, and sometimes there'd come a moment when the kite would begin making a figure of 8, which was the sign it was about to fall. So in order to keep that from happening, you mustn't pull on the string. And the kids who knew that would scream, "Give it some slack, it's wobbling." Pope Francis says flying a kite resembles the approach you've got to take regarding a young person's spiritual growth. Sometimes you've got to give them a bit of slack because they're wavering. In other words, it's necessary to give them some time. We have to be able to set limits at the right moment, but at other times we need to know how to look the other way. Well, I really like this story because it captures the craft of what it is to be a religious educator. And it makes us think, well, what sort of students do we want to walk out the door after 13 years in a Catholic or ecumenical school? We want kids who are formed in the best of the Catholic Christian tradition. But most importantly, we want kids who can give a religious voice to the everyday.
I think what's really inspiring about being a religious educator is when you bring the best of yourself to the classroom as well. And children will quickly see that if you're teaching them one thing, no matter how academically rigorous it is or how well you've framed it or what resources you've used, they won't really take that message on board unless they see you acting in that way.
The best of the tradition is a way of encouraging people to engage in life in all its richness and all that it has to offer. I think the greatest satisfaction I have is when we do something in class and we'll have a discussion, we'll watch something, we will share something. And particularly with older students, you can actually see them sitting there and they are genuinely thinking about what it is that we've just done. And I know that there is something ticking away in their mind.
We acknowledge different cultural beliefs and traditions, but we do that in a meaningful context that is part of our rich Catholic tradition.
Our vision for the religious education curriculum is really grounded in that broad, really expansive vision for life, and Jesus Christ is at the centre of that vision.
Each and every day we see children, students, teachers, school officers, parents working together for something bigger than themselves.
I would like to think that the classroom, especially for a secondary classroom, where the children are forming a lot of important ideas for their future lives, that the religion classroom has a significant impact on how those ideas are being formed and then consequently how those ideas will be lived.
I think the power of religious education and of quality learning and teaching about religion, complemented by a rich variety of experiences in the religious life of the school, means that what students are hearing and learning about can actually become something that's real and connected to their own lives.
We've particularly looked at Mary MacKillop recently, so we've been looking at her different actions, and then the children have been thinking about, well, how could they be like Mary, and what are the qualities that she showed that compassionate face of God.
We want them to be a religious voice. We want them to be able to critique culture. We don't want them just to be passive consumers of culture. So if they have a deep knowledge and understanding of, well, scripture or Catholic social teaching or whatever it is, they have to be able to then say, how does that inform the way I'm going to live in the world and the way I'm going to respond to social issues and the culture around me.
And while that's been important, it's also changed their own lives, I think, in terms of where a number of them choose to live their professional lives later on. I think has been quite remarkable and a credit to Catholic schooling in so many different ways.
When young people reach points in their lives where they are trying to make meaning and they're trying to find answers, that they call back or they rely very strongly on that faith tradition and the wonderful sense of hope and joy and comfort that tradition gave them whilst at school.
Teachers of religion need to have an expansive, big picture view of life and be real about the students in their classrooms. It is about rigorous education, but it's also about the sensitive formation of students. Our vision for religious education challenges students to be a religious voice in the world, to be Christ to one another. It's great work.